Okay, so there are a few more things I want to say about this show. A lot of them are actually from videos that I've seen online, and I'll leave links to those videos in the description box of this one. Is the whole series a dream? In episode 18, we are faced with the fact that when Cooper takes Carrie Page, a.k.a. Laura Palmer, to her parents' house, when Carrie Page screams, she could be realizing that she's actually in a nightmare. The theory online is backed up by the fact that if you listen very closely, you can hear Laura's mother, Sarah Palmer, crying out for Laura to wake up. And this is the same piece of dialogue from the first episode of the show in season 1. The day when she is very, very afraid for her daughter's life, and she's trying to hope against hope that she's there, that she's awake. She's just had like a phone call from Leland saying that, well, is Laura there? So where does that put us? That puts us into a point where, scarily enough, the whole of season 1, 2, and 3 could be a horrible dream nightmare. That may not be satisfactory to many people who actually want a narrative where all the people they've been invested in emotionally are people they can feel that they've actually been with, and not just remnants of a dream. But, well, that's basically where that theory leaves us. There's the sync theory. Someone online, and it's been quite a popular theory now, has said that you can watch season 3's finale, episode 18, and episode 17 at the same time. You can watch them both at the same time, and there will be some interesting links there as to what it all may culminate in terms of an overall narrative, which is again satisfactory to people who want to have that idea pay off, and that there is one big story that we can all get and say that's the ending. If you see my other videos, you can understand how frustrated I am as I speak about that theory, simply because I don't think that there is one ending for everyone. The creators of the show have gone so far as to say that anybody's ending is just as significant as the next, and I think that's quite healthy. But anyway, there's a link to that theory in the description box. I mean, it is quite interesting to see parts of that theory play out. Someone who has taken their time to actually superimpose one episode onto the other. They've shared parts of that onto a Facebook group that I've been part of, and it looks quite intriguing. There's a moment where Laura Palmer's mother is stabbing away at the picture, and at the same time in the other episode 18, Laura is waking up, or is screaming at any rate, at the house that she used to live in. So if you want to check out that theory for your own conclusions, go for it. I don't think I'm motivated to do so quite yet. I'm more interested in going back and looking at season 1 and talking about that with season 3 in mind. Just speculative. I've really gotten to a point now where, even though I was flip-flopping before, I wasn't sure if there was going to be a season 4, but I'm now convinced that the show is ended, and that we are supposed to take what we want from this incredible nightmare dreamscape reality. But nonetheless, I have other things to say before we come to a close pretty soon. You may or may already know it, but just for those who don't, Jaude, who is now known as Judy, has been discovered by someone online as to being, if you use Chinese language, you can actually transcribe Jaude to mean the explanation. So that's quite significant, in that the one thing that David Lynch seems to rail against and not like is the idea that there is this obligation as a narrator or storyteller to tell you guys exactly what it is you've seen. And so it's interesting that he's named the ultimate negative force the explanation. Again, this is all interpretation, but nonetheless interesting. The real owner of the house idea, I don't know if you've heard of this, but the person who opens the door to Carrie Page, a.k.a. Laura Palmer, in episode 18, she is not an actress. She is actually the owner of that house. And so knowing that, we are in a very meta relationship with this show, in that we are constantly drawn out of it by things that Gordon Cole might say to us, such as to kill one bird with two birds with one stone. Things like that that kind of allude to the idea that we're actually watching a show that's commenting on itself, that's talking to us. It could be that the reality that Cooper and Laura are now in that last episode is one that is outside of the realm of the TV show and is much closer to our own. Again, this is something that I've discovered via someone else, and I feel an obligation to mention that in this video in case you guys don't see that. So again, check out the description box for less fevered renditions of these ideas, because it's just so exciting. I think that in many ways, and I'll point out a few of them, we can't go back. We can't go back to season 2 and have the endings that we may have wanted for these characters, because so much time has gone past. And in the way the show comments on this, in that Cooper wants to go back, but in doing so he ruins things for everyone. Not in a malicious way, but it would have been best for him to leave well enough alone. He doesn't see the bigger picture. Someone's pointed out that James Hurley seems quite ridiculous on stage when playing his song, and he seems quite ridiculous in that he is still going to the same bar he was going to when he was 17, and that his life hasn't necessarily turned out to be the cool role that he was being signified for back in the day. He's a security guard doing a really dull shift, a very boring life. If you look at the once quirky but still respectable Dr. Jacoby, he seems to have become, well, quite angry with the world. Maybe he's not necessarily as enlightened as his listeners would like him to be, in that he's turning his anger on the world because that maybe there's things that he couldn't solve. Maybe the whole thing of Laura is eating him up. And then us, the audience, we are quite nostalgic for this show. We really want things to have changed for Audrey in a way that would make us happy, but wouldn't necessarily be completely true to where all these characters might go. I'm rambling now, but I really just wanted to make this last video about season 3. Because there's been so many interesting theories online. I'd like you all to see them, and if you haven't, then please check out the description box for them all. It's been quite enjoyable. I'll see you in season 1.